Welcome to Science for Sleepy, a quiet corner of the internet where you can sink into slow science and let your mind wander while your body drifts closer to rest. Tonight, you and I are going to unravel something so ordinary, so constant, and yet so astonishingly vital that most of the time you forget it's even happening. Your heart beating steadily, minute after minute, hour after hour, year after year, keeping you alive without ever needing your permission. You don't wake up in the morning and think, "Ah yes, I must remember to make my heart pump today." It simply does it, faithfully, from the very first moments of your existence until the very last. In fact, if you pause for a moment right now, you might even feel it. A soft thud in your chest, a rhythm older than any habit you've ever had. Before we get too deep, I'd love if you could do me a little favor. Scroll down to the comments and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is where you are right now. Maybe you're tucked into bed with the lights off. Maybe you're lying on the couch on a rainy afternoon. Or maybe you're listening during a late-night study session. I'm genuinely curious. And while you're down there, could you also subscribe to Science for Sleepy? Think of it this way. Subscribing is like giving this channel its own steady heartbeat. Without it, the channel might flatline, and we wouldn't want that, would we? So, let's begin with a simple truth. Your heart is, at its core, a pump. That doesn't sound glamorous, does it? A pump is what you use to inflate a bicycle tire, or what keeps water flowing through your kitchen pipes. Yet that's exactly what the heart is. A muscular pump, pushing blood through a vast network of vessels that reach every last cell in your body. If you laid out all your blood vessels end to end, they would stretch for thousands upon thousands of miles, long enough to circle the earth more than twice. And here's the ordinary miracle. Your heart keeps that entire system going, with a force that never quite takes a break. But how does it manage this without your conscious thought? The answer lies in something called the cardiac conduction system. It's not a machine you can see with your eyes when you look at a heart, but it's there, woven into the tissue like an invisible wiring system. At the top of your right atrium, one of the chambers of the heart, there's a small cluster of cells called the sinoatrial node, or SA node. This cluster acts as the natural pacemaker, sending out tiny electrical impulses that tell the heart muscle when to contract. Imagine it like a conductor tapping their baton, setting the tempo for the entire orchestra. Without the conductor, the musicians might still play, but the rhythm would be scattered and confused. And here's the fascinating part. Those pacemaker cells don't need any outside instruction. They create their own electrical signals. Even if you took them out of the body and placed them in a dish, they would continue to fire rhythmically on their own. They are born with the ability to beat, almost like tiny clocks that refuse to stop ticking. This means your heartbeat doesn't depend on your brain telling it when to go, it's self-contained. A built-in rhythm that begins early in development, before you were even born, and never truly stops until the end. Now, maybe you're thinking, all right, that sounds neat, but how reliable can such a small cluster of cells really be? Well, incredibly reliable. The sinoatrial node has been keeping hearts beating in humans for millennia, long before we even had a name for it. In fact, the history of how we discovered this is almost as fascinating as the mechanism itself. Ancient physicians like Galen in the 2nd century thought the heart was the seat of the soul, a fiery organ that gave life to the rest of the body. For centuries, that idea persisted, and it wasn't until much later, many hundreds of years, that scientists began to unravel the electrical secrets behind its steady rhythm. There's a kind of poetry in that. For so long, people believed the heart was not just a pump, but the very center of who we are. And in a way, they weren't entirely wrong. The rhythm of your heart is tied to your emotions, your stress levels, your breathing patterns. When you're calm, it slows. When you're frightened or excited, it speeds up. Even though it doesn't require your conscious thought, it still reflects your state of being. It's like a mirror you carry inside your chest, one that reflects not your face but your inner life. Think of those moments when you've been startled, your heart races, pounding almost painfully, as if trying to leap out of your chest. Or those moments of quiet when you can almost hear it in your ears, slow and steady like a lullaby. These sensations are your awareness catching up with something that's always been there, a soundless drum keeping time with your existence. And yet, here's the detail that might strike you as odd. Your heart doesn't actually beat in perfect silence. If you've ever pressed a stethoscope against your chest, or even just placed your ear against someone else's chest, you've heard that familiar lub-dub. That sound comes not from the heartbeat itself, but from the closing of valves inside the heart as blood is pushed from one chamber to another. The heart has 4 chambers, 2 atria on the top and 2 ventricles on the bottom, and between them are valves that act like doors, ensuring blood flows in only one direction. Each time those valves snap shut, they create the sounds that doctors listen for. It's a very mechanical sort of noise, but somehow we humans have always attached deep emotional meaning to it. The sound of a heartbeat has been written into poems, love songs, and stories for as long as we've had words. When you lie in bed at night, sometimes you can feel your heartbeat in odd places, in your fingertips, in your throat, in your temples. It's not that your heart has moved. It's that the pressure wave it creates travels through your arteries, echoing outward until it reaches the smallest capillaries. It's a reminder that your entire body is connected by this system, all linked back to the pump at the center of your chest. And so, as you lie here listening, I want you to reflect on a simple question. If your heart can keep time on its own, never asking for your attention, never demanding your effort, what else in your body is quietly keeping you alive without you even noticing? If you think about it, your heart is both stubborn and humble. It doesn't seek recognition. It doesn't ask for applause. It doesn't even need you to thank it. It simply keeps working. But when you look closer at what it does, how it manages to do so much, with such consistency, you begin to see how remarkable it really is. Imagine a machine built in the early years of your life, running continuously, day and night, without pause, without maintenance breaks, without ever overheating. That is essentially what your heart accomplishes. Every single minute, it pumps blood through an intricate network, reaching every organ, every fingertip, every strand of hair. This is not just about carrying oxygen. It's about delivering nutrients, hormones, and chemicals that allow you to think, to move, to digest, to dream. Without that circulation, your brain would fade in mere moments. Your muscles would stiffen, and your body would no longer be able to carry out its quiet, necessary business. It may seem dull to think of it this way, just a distribution system, but dull things are often the most vital. A delivery truck isn't glamorous, yet without it, the store shelves would be empty. The heart is your body's ultimate delivery truck, and it never calls in sick. Of course, the system is not simple. Your body needs more or less blood depending on what you're doing. Sitting quietly, as you might be right now, it beats slowly and steadily. But when you run, or climb stairs, or even just get startled by a sudden noise, the demand rises sharply. In those moments, your heart rate increases, sometimes doubling or tripling, in order to push more oxygen and fuel where it's needed. The adjustment happens instantly, without you deciding it. You don't think, my muscles need more blood, better speed things up. The heart just knows. How does it know? That's where the nervous system enters the story. Your heart might have its own pacemaker, but it is not cut off from the rest of your body. Nerves running from your brainstem constantly monitor what's happening. If your blood pressure falls too low, signals are sent to make the heart beat faster and harder. If your blood pressure rises, different signals slow things down. This balance is maintained by 2 branches of your nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic is like the accelerator, pressing the gas pedal, raising heart rate, preparing you for action. The parasympathetic is like the brake, calming things, slowing the pace, easing you back into rest. Together, they create a balance that keeps your circulation tuned to your needs. Here's something to picture. A hunter in ancient times, tens of thousands of years ago, crouching quietly in the grass, waiting to throw a spear. His heart slows down, steady and calm, conserving energy while he waits. Then suddenly, the animal moves. His heart leaps, pounding rapidly, sending energy and oxygen to his muscles as he runs. That same mechanism still works in you today, even though you might use it not for hunting but for sprinting after a bus or feeling nervous before a job interview. The heart doesn't distinguish between these things, it just responds to your body's cues. There's also a fascinating connection between your breathing and your heart. If you've ever tried slow breathing exercises, you may have noticed how your pulse seems to calm with your breath. This is not imagination. When you inhale, your heart rate subtly rises. When you exhale, it lowers. This phenomenon is called respiratory sinus arrhythmia, and it's one of the ways your body maintains balance. In fact, some meditation techniques rely on this connection, using slow, deliberate breathing to coax the heart into a steady rhythm. It's almost as if your lungs and your heart are having a quiet conversation, keeping each other in check. But what happens when things go wrong? For much of history, a heartbeat was either present or it wasn't. There was little in between. If someone collapsed, physicians of centuries past had no idea what was happening inside the chest. It wasn't until the late 19th century that scientists discovered irregular heart rhythms, arrhythmias, and began to understand that sometimes the heart misfires, beating too fast, too slow, or out of sync. Imagine a conductor waving their baton while the musicians stumble through the piece, missing notes or rushing ahead. The result is chaos, and in the heart, chaos can be deadly. One of the most dramatic examples of this is fibrillation. In ventricular fibrillation, the lower chambers of the heart don't beat properly. They quiver like a bowl of jelly, blood stops moving, and within minutes, the brain begins to die. The discovery of this condition and the realization that electricity could sometimes shock the heart back into rhythm changed medicine forever. The first defibrillators were enormous machines, wheeled into operating rooms, delivering crude but life-saving jolts. Today, you've probably seen automated external defibrillators, AEDs, mounted on walls in airports or schools. These little devices are designed so that even someone without medical training can use them, guiding you step by step to deliver a shock if someone collapses with cardiac arrest. The idea that a heart's rhythm can be restarted by a carefully timed jolt is both terrifying and miraculous. Now pause for a moment and think about the oddness of this. A heart is not powered by electricity in the same way a lamp or a phone is, yet it responds to electricity all the same. The currents that flow through your heart are tiny, microscopic, produced by the movement of ions across cell membranes. But when those currents go awry, a carefully delivered shock can reset them, as if turning a machine off and on again. There is something almost unsettling about that simplicity, that such a vital, intricate organ can sometimes be saved by the equivalent of rebooting a computer. Despite all this complexity, your heart usually works without error for decades on end. It doesn't complain, doesn't demand attention, doesn't wear out easily. But that reliability can make you forget it's there. You don't feel most of your heartbeats. You don't stop to admire the valves snapping shut, the blood surging forward, the pacemaker cells firing. You only notice it in extreme moments when it pounds too fast, or when fear makes it leap. And here's where I'll leave you with something to ponder. If your heart is constantly adapting to your needs without you ever being aware, what other parts of your life are quietly adjusting themselves in the background, unseen and unappreciated? You might think of your heart as a single, solid organ, but the truth is, it's a community of parts working together, each with its own task. 4 chambers, 4 valves, layers of muscle, networks of vessels, and a built-in electrical system. It is not just one thing, but many, cooperating in a perfectly timed sequence. When people describe the heart as a pump, that description is accurate. but it's a little too simple. A pump just pushes liquid forward. Your heart is more like a precision machine, one that has been refined over millions of years of evolution to handle pressures, flows, and rhythms with astonishing reliability. Think about the journey a single red blood cell takes. It begins in the right atrium, entering through veins that have collected oxygen-poor blood from all over the body. The cell slides through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle, then is launched into the pulmonary artery, heading toward the lungs. There, it picks up oxygen, like a traveler boarding a ship and gathering supplies. With its cargo secured, the red blood cell returns through the pulmonary veins into the left atrium. From there, it crosses the mitral valve into the left ventricle, the strongest chamber of them all, which contracts with enough force to push the blood into the aorta, the main highway of circulation. From that single exit point, blood is carried to every organ and tissue, branching into smaller and smaller vessels until the oxygen is delivered. Then the journey begins all over again. This entire cycle happens in less than a minute, and not just once, but billions of times over a lifetime. Consider this. If your heart beats about 70 times per minute, that means more than 100,000 times per day, more than 30 million times per year. By the time you are 80 years old, it will have beaten over 3 billion times. And yet, you don't feel the strain. You're not even aware of most of these beats. The heart's work is quiet, invisible, taken for granted. It has been said that civilization often depends on boring things: clean water, sewage systems, stable laws. They are not flashy, but they keep everything going. The heart is like that inside your body. It is a kind of infrastructure, a plumbing system and power source rolled into one. Without it, nothing else can function. Of course, people haven't always understood this so clearly. If you lived in ancient Egypt, around 4,000 years ago, you might have believed the heart was not only the source of life, but also the seat of intelligence and morality. Egyptians thought the heart was where your thoughts were formed, where your personality lived. When someone died, they carefully preserved the heart during mummification, believing it would be weighed in the afterlife against the feather of truth. Too heavy with sin, and you would be devoured by a fearsome creature. Light enough, and you could pass into eternity. For them, the heart was more than an organ. It was the essence of the self. Later, in ancient Greece, philosophers like Aristotle imagined the heart as the center of sensation and motion. He thought the brain was merely a cooling device, a way to regulate the fiery heat of the heart. It seems strange to us now, but in a way, it speaks to how powerful the heartbeat felt to early observers. It was the obvious rhythm of life, the thing you could hear and feel, whereas the brain worked silently, without sensation. It took centuries of dissection, study, and experimentation before thinkers like William Harvey in the 17th century demonstrated that the heart was, in fact, a pump circulating blood in a closed system. His work was radical at the time, almost scandalous, because it overturned centuries of belief. But Harvey's insights opened the door to modern medicine, and eventually to the technology that lets us see the heart in astonishing detail today. And here is where the story gets a little eerie. With the invention of stethoscopes, electrocardiograms, and modern imaging, we have been able to listen to the heart's rhythm, to see it pulsing on a screen, to trace the electrical signals as they move across the muscle. And when doctors first witnessed a beating heart outside the body during surgery or transplantation, they described it as both mesmerizing and unsettling. A lump of tissue, contracting and relaxing all on its own, independent of the brain, as though it were alive in a way different from other organs. This independence is not just theoretical. There are stories of surgeons handling a heart during transplant procedures, feeling it continue to beat even after it has been removed from the chest. It is a reminder that the heart is not just a passenger in the body. It has its own autonomy, its own authority. And yet, For all this mystery, it is also mechanical in the most practical sense. The valves open and close, the chambers contract in sequence, the pressure rises and falls. Each part has a job, and each job must be done in order. If even one valve leaks, if even one chamber weakens, the entire system feels the effect. Like a factory assembly line, the efficiency depends on every worker showing up on time. Now picture this. You are lying down in the dark, your body at rest. Your muscles are slack, your mind drifting, your breathing slow, and still, your heart continues. It adjusts to the lower demand, slowing down, but never stopping. It is patient, it is relentless. It is the first sound you ever heard, in the womb, and it will likely be the last sound your body makes. So here's something I want you to imagine as you drift deeper into this explanation. If the heart is always moving forward, pushing blood in cycles without pause, what does that say about the way life itself moves? Is there ever truly a moment of stillness? Or is everything always in motion whether you notice it or not? If you have ever stood near a clock and listened to the steady tick, tick, tick of its hands, you've experienced something similar to what your heart is doing every moment. A rhythm, dependable and unbroken, marking time in your life even when you're not aware of it. The difference is that a clock can stop and be rewound, but your heart cannot afford such luxuries. It ticks without pause, day after day, without the need for winding, without new batteries, without rest. Now, let's talk about what makes this possible at the most basic level: the heart muscle itself. Unlike the muscles in your arms or legs, the heart's muscle, called cardiac muscle, is unique. It is striated like skeletal muscle, but it has endurance like smooth muscle. What this means is that it can contract strongly, like the muscles you use to lift something heavy, but also endlessly, like the muscles in your stomach that churn food without tiring. Cardiac muscle cells are connected by tiny structures called intercalated discs, which allow electrical signals to pass quickly from one cell to another. This ensures that when one cell contracts, its neighbors contract almost instantly, creating a unified, coordinated beat. It's almost like a stadium wave at a sporting event. One person stands, then the next, until the motion ripples through the entire crowd in perfect sequence. Except in the heart, this wave is not for fun, it's the very essence of survival. A single delay or misfire can throw off the entire pattern, and the result might be fainting, dizziness, or worse. What's particularly striking about cardiac muscle is its resilience. Skeletal muscles can fatigue after a long workout. Your legs may ache, your arms may tremble. But the heart cannot afford fatigue. If it stopped to rest, even for a short while, life would end. So its cells are packed with mitochondria, the little energy factories of the cell. In fact, heart cells contain more mitochondria than almost any other type of cell in the body. These mitochondria churn out energy continuously, ensuring the muscle never runs out of fuel. Here's an everyday comparison. Imagine a factory that produces electricity, not for one building but for an entire city, running 24 hours a day, never shutting down, never pausing for repairs. That's what the mitochondria in your heart are doing, fueling a process that simply cannot be interrupted. The fuel itself comes from blood, but not just oxygen. The heart is remarkably adaptable in what it consumes. It can use glucose, fatty acids, even lactate produced by muscles during exercise. This flexibility means that no matter what you've eaten, no matter whether you're running or resting, your heart has a way to keep itself supplied. You could say the heart is not a picky eater. It takes whatever fuel is available and makes the most of it. This adaptability has been tested countless times in history, especially during famine, illness, or extreme exertion. Soldiers in long marches, explorers lost in the wilderness, even patients in hospitals with limited nutrition. All of them have relied on their heart's ability to make do with whatever resources are on hand. That quiet flexibility is another layer of the miracle. But while the heart is powerful, it is not indestructible. One of the greatest threats it faces is a blockage of its own blood supply. That's right, the heart itself needs blood, delivered by the coronary arteries. If those arteries become narrowed or clogged, the muscle is starved of oxygen, and parts of it can begin to die. This is what we call a heart attack, or myocardial infarction. The first recorded descriptions of chest pain that we would now recognize as heart attacks go back centuries. But it wasn't until the 20th century that doctors began to understand the role of coronary arteries and cholesterol buildup. Before that, heart failure was often a mystery, described in vague terms as dropsy or weakness of the chest. Now we know the culprit is often a gradual process of atherosclerosis plaques forming inside the arteries, narrowing the channels until, one day, blood can no longer pass. It may sound grim, but here's the curious thing. Even this vulnerability tells us something important about the heart's nature. It is not an untouchable machine, flawless and eternal. It is a living tissue, reliant on the same circulation it provides to the rest of the body. It feeds itself even as it feeds you. And like any living thing, it can falter. There's a human story here too. In the mid-20th century, when researchers first began to realize the connection between diet, cholesterol, and heart disease, it changed not only medicine but also culture. Public health campaigns encouraged people to avoid fatty foods, to exercise, to stop smoking. The idea of a healthy heart became a household phrase. You still hear it today, in advertisements, in doctors' offices, in everyday conversation. It's a reminder that this organ, hidden away in the chest, is both deeply personal and universally important. And yet, despite these warnings, despite the statistics and the science, the heart keeps going for most of us, faithfully. Even when we don't always treat it kindly, when we eat poorly, when we sit too long, when we neglect exercise, it doesn't quit. It adapts, compensates, tries to keep up with what we demand of it. Only when pushed too far does it protest. If you're listening to this now, perhaps lying in bed, think about that. An organ that has been working since the earliest moments of your life, one that has never once taken a break, one that has endured stress, strain, perhaps even neglect, and yet continues without complaint. Isn't it strange how rarely we stop to appreciate that? So here's my question for you as this section closes. If your heart can show such persistence and adaptability in the face of challenge, what lessons might that hold for the way you approach the demands of your own life? When you picture the heart, you might imagine the classic symbol, a rounded shape with two curves at the top and a point at the bottom, drawn on greeting cards and glowing in neon signs. But the real heart looks nothing like that. It is more compact, more muscular, tilted slightly within your chest, about the size of your fist. It sits a little to the left, though not nearly as far as people often think. If you tap your chest just to the side of your sternum, you're close to where it truly lies. Inside, the heart is divided not only into chambers but into systems of pressure. The right side handles low-pressure circulation to the lungs, while the left side generates much higher pressures to send blood throughout the body. This balance is vital. If the pressures are mismatched, fluid can build up in the lungs or the tissues, leading to shortness of breath, swelling, and fatigue. It's not just about beating, it's about beating with the right force, the right pressure, at the right time. This brings us to the curious design of the valves. There are 4 of them: tricuspid, pulmonary, mitral, and aortic. Each is like a set of swinging doors that opens in one direction and slams shut in the other. They don't look like much, just thin flaps of tissue, but without them, circulation would be chaos. Imagine trying to direct traffic at a busy intersection without any lights or signs. Cars would crash, pile up, or stall. The valves are the traffic signals of the heart, ensuring everything flows smoothly. Doctors can often detect valve problems just by listening with a stethoscope. A murmur, that soft whooshing sound between beats, may indicate a valve that doesn't close completely or one that has become stiff and narrowed. For centuries, physicians relied only on their ears and instincts to diagnose these conditions. Today, ultrasound imaging echocardiography lets us see the valves in action, opening and closing like tiny gates. It's an odd thing to watch, because what you see looks so delicate, yet the system works against tremendous pressures, repeating the cycle millions upon millions of times without wearing out. Now, let's think about blood itself, the substance being pumped. It's easy to imagine blood as just a red liquid, but it is more like a moving ecosystem. Red cells carry oxygen, white cells fight infection, platelets help with clotting, and plasma serves as the highway that transports nutrients, hormones, and waste products. Each time the heart contracts, it propels not just a fluid, but an entire community of elements that keep the body alive. Historically, blood was thought to carry not only nutrients but personality traits. Ancient physicians believed that an excess of blood made a person optimistic, cheerful, and energetic, a theory that gave rise to the word sanguine. People with too little blood were thought to be sluggish or melancholic. Of course, we now know personality has nothing to do with blood volume, but it is telling that for centuries, people linked the nature of the self with the substance that flows from the heart. And yet, there is some truth hidden in that old belief. When blood circulation falters, everything else falters too. Low blood flow to the brain causes confusion and dizziness. Poor circulation in the limbs causes weakness and pain. A lack of oxygen in the tissues quickly brings fatigue. In this sense, blood is the fuel of vitality, and the heart is the engine that keeps it moving. Consider also the heartbeat as a form of communication, not just in poetry or love songs, but in medicine. When you go to the doctor, one of the first things they check is your pulse. That steady throb in your wrist or neck is a message, a signal about your state of health. Too fast, and it might suggest fever, dehydration, or stress. Too slow, and it could signal athletic conditioning or sometimes underlying problems. Even the rhythm itself tells a story. Regular, like a metronome, or irregular, skipping, stuttering. Doctors have learned to read the heart not through words but through these patterns, as if the organ is constantly whispering its condition. Technology has only amplified this ability. Electrocardiograms, or ECGs, trace the heart's electrical activity on paper or screen, producing those jagged lines we've all seen. Each bump and dip corresponds to a part of the heartbeat, the atria contracting, the ventricles firing, the reset before the next beat. For doctors, reading an ECG is like reading a diary the heart keeps, one that never lies, one that records every irregularity. It is strange, isn't it? How such an ordinary sound, the lub-dub, can carry so much meaning. People have fallen asleep to the rhythm of another person's heartbeat, pressed against a chest. Parents have rested their ears on the tiny heartbeat of a newborn. Lovers have written poems about it. Soldiers have heard it pounding in their ears before battle. And doctors have traced its sounds in quiet exam rooms. The heart is both biological and deeply human, both mechanical and symbolic. And yet, for all its constancy, it leaves us with a question that's harder to answer. If something can be both a machine and a symbol, both a pump and a mirror of our emotions, how should we truly think of the heart? If you were to look closely at the heart in motion, not just with your ears but with your eyes, you would see a choreography so precise that it almost seems rehearsed. The atria contract first, gently pushing blood into the ventricles. A fraction of a second later, the ventricles contract, sending blood into the lungs and the body. Then there is a pause, a brief reset, before the cycle begins again. This sequence repeats with the precision of a metronome, again and again, billions of times over a lifetime. What makes this choreography possible is the timing of electrical signals traveling through the conduction system. We've already spoken of the sinoatrial node, that natural pacemaker at the top of the right atrium. But the signal doesn't stop there. It travels to the atrioventricular node, or AV node, which acts like a gatekeeper. It delays the signal ever so slightly, ensuring the atria have time to contract fully before the ventricles take their turn. Without this pause, the chambers would clash in their efforts, and blood would not flow efficiently. From the AV node, the signal shoots down specialized fibers called the bundle of His, and then spreads through the Purkinje fibers, reaching every last muscle cell of the ventricles. The entire process takes less than a second, yet it is so perfectly timed that the heart never skips a beat except, of course, when it does. People sometimes notice their heart skipping or fluttering, a sensation that can be alarming. Most often, these are benign extra beats, called premature contractions. They feel odd but usually aren't dangerous. Still, they are a reminder that the system is not a machine of metal and gears but living tissue, prone to quirks and imperfections. In the 19th and 20th centuries, when scientists first developed tools to measure these rhythms, it changed the way we thought about the heart. Electrocardiography, pioneered by Willem Einthoven in the early 1900s, allowed doctors to see electrical activity as wavy lines on paper. Einthoven even created a massive, unwieldy machine that used strings and mirrors to record signals, a contraption so large that patients had to immerse their arms and legs in saltwater baths to complete the circuit. It sounds absurd now, but those early recordings laid the foundation for every modern ECG you've ever seen. And yet, even with all this technology, the heart remains stubbornly mysterious. Consider the phenomenon of sudden cardiac arrest. A person may seem perfectly healthy, only for their heart to stop without warning due to an electrical malfunction. This unpredictability has haunted both doctors and families for generations. It has also inspired research, inventions, and whole systems of emergency response. Defibrillators, pacemakers, implantable cardioverter devices, all of these are human attempts to imitate what the heart usually does on its own. Speaking of pacemakers, let's pause on them for a moment. The very idea that a small device, no bigger than a matchbox, can be implanted to take over the role of the sinoatrial node is astonishing. Early pacemakers, developed in the mid-20th century, were large and clumsy, requiring external wires and frequent adjustments. Today's pacemakers are sleek, battery-powered devices that can last years, quietly monitoring and correcting rhythms without the patient even noticing. Imagine carrying around a tiny conductor in your chest, keeping time when your natural conductor falters. It is both unsettling and comforting at once. Of course, all of this technology raises a strange thought. If we can replace or support the heart's rhythm with machines, at what point does the line blur between natural and artificial life? When a heartbeat comes from a pacemaker's pulse rather than the sinoatrial node, is it any less a heartbeat? To the person living with it, the difference may not matter. Survival and normal life are what matter. Still, the question lingers: how much of our biology can be replaced before we feel less human? On a more ordinary level, you might have noticed how your heartbeat responds to your daily life in ways that are both predictable and surprising. A deep sigh slows it down. A sudden noise speeds it up. Even something as simple as standing up quickly can make you dizzy for a moment, as your heart adjusts to the shift in blood pressure. These micro-adjustments happen constantly, quietly, without your awareness. They are small details, but in them lies the secret of survival: adaptability. In fact, adaptability is the key word here. The heart is not a machine built for a single task. It adjusts to sleep, to exercise, to stress, to illness. It can beat as slowly as 30 times per minute in a trained athlete at rest, or as quickly as 200 times per minute during a sprint. That range is astonishing. It's as though your car engine could idle whisper quiet at a crawl, then roar instantly to racing speed without missing a beat. And yet, for all its reliability, There's something humbling in realizing just how dependent we are on this organ's rhythm. A pause of even a few seconds can cause fainting. A stop of a few minutes can mean death. We rarely think about it because we don't have to. But that dependence is always there, a silent reminder of fragility wrapped in the guise of endurance. So let me leave you with a question. If something as small and fragile as an electrical impulse in your chest can sustain life, what other hidden sparks might be shaping your existence in ways you never notice? When you lie down at night, in that quiet space between wakefulness and sleep, your heart doesn't clock out. In fact, it settles into a different rhythm entirely. As you drift deeper into rest, your body's demand for oxygen decreases, and the parasympathetic nervous system, your body's rest and digest mode, takes charge. Your heart rate slows, sometimes so much that if you were hooked up to a monitor, you might worry something was wrong. But this slowdown is not danger, it's restoration. It's the heart saying, "We're safe now. Let's conserve." Sleep itself is a strange landscape, divided into stages: light sleep, deep sleep, and REM, the phase where dreams twist and unfurl. Each stage nudges your heartbeat in subtle ways. In deep sleep, your heart rate may sink lower than at any other time of day, giving your cardiovascular system a break. Then, in REM sleep, when your brain sparks with dream activity, your heart can suddenly speed up, almost as if you're running or laughing in those imagined worlds. It is one of life's odd paradoxes. Your body is paralyzed in REM, yet your heart races as though you're chasing something. This nightly cycle of slowing and quickening is not just background noise, it is essential maintenance. Your heart, like any hard-working system, needs variation. Constant stress without relief is dangerous. Imagine an engine running at high speed without ever cooling down; it would burn out. The heart avoids this fate because sleep builds in natural intervals of rest and variation. Studies show that people who consistently lack sleep carry higher risks of heart disease. It's not only because of stress or poor habits, but because the heart is deprived of its nightly recalibration. And it's not just sleep that shapes the rhythm. Think of your emotions. When you're startled, your heart leaps. When you're nervous, it races. When you're in love, it flutters, though not always in a way doctors would approve of. These sayings are not just poetic language. They describe real physical responses. Emotional surges send cascades of hormones into your bloodstream: adrenaline, cortisol, oxytocin, that directly change how the heart beats. The line between body and mind is thinner than we often admit. One of the most haunting examples of this connection is what doctors call stress cardiomyopathy, or more poetically, broken heart syndrome. A person under sudden, extreme emotional stress, such as the loss of a loved one, can actually experience chest pain, heart weakness, even heart failure. Their heart quite literally struggles under the weight of grief. For centuries, poets spoke of dying from heartbreak. Now, medicine has confirmed that the metaphor was closer to reality than we imagined. But before this begins to sound too grim, let's remember the other side of the story. The heart is also strengthened by joy, laughter, companionship. Studies show that people who nurture social connections and who laugh often tend to have healthier hearts. It is as though the organ responds not just to oxygen and blood flow, but to kindness, to belonging. Isn't that remarkable? This pump of flesh and muscle is shaped not only by biology, but by the stories and emotions of your life. Even simple practices can shift the rhythm in powerful ways. Try breathing deeply, really deeply, and notice what happens. Your heart slows. This isn't imagination, but a reflex called respiratory sinus arrhythmia. With each inhale, your heart rate ticks up. With each exhale, it ticks down. This rhythm is thought to help keep the cardiovascular system flexible, like a gentle stretching exercise for your heart. Monks, yogis, and meditators have long used breath as a bridge to calmness, but only in recent decades have scientists measured its direct effects on heart rhythm. Today, devices like heart rate variability monitors are even used to track well-being, stress, and resilience. A smooth, variable rhythm is a sign of a system in balance. A rigid, unchanging rhythm, though it may sound ideal, is often a red flag for trouble. Flexibility, not perfection, is health. So when you place your hand on your chest and feel that steady beat, remember, it is not the same from one moment to the next. It bends, sways, slows, and speeds in response to your inner and outer world. Your thoughts, your sleep, your laughter, your grief, they all leave fingerprints on the rhythm. It is a reminder that you are not just a body with a heart. You are a life with a story, and the heart is listening to every chapter. Imagine you're walking outside on a crisp morning, the kind where the air feels alive and your steps fall into rhythm. Without you even thinking about it, your heart syncs itself to your movement. Faster pace, faster beat, slower stroll, softer rhythm. It's one of the most extraordinary things about the heart. It is endlessly adaptable, fine-tuning itself to the needs of the moment with precision so quick you never notice the transition. At the center of this adaptability lies a network of vessels so intricate and vast, it's almost impossible to grasp. Your circulatory system stretches more than 0 miles inside you. That's enough to wrap around the earth more than twice. Every beat of your heart pushes blood through this enormous map, delivering oxygen to cells and carrying away waste like a tireless delivery service. The sheer logistics of this are mind-bending. If you imagined a city with millions of homes, each requiring multiple daily deliveries, it still wouldn't match the precision your heart manages effortlessly. And yet, this system isn't mechanical in the way we might think. It's alive, constantly adjusting, repairing, expanding. Blood vessels dilate when more flow is needed and constrict when it's time to conserve. Tiny capillaries, thinner than a strand of hair, act as doorways between blood and tissue, letting nutrients slip through while waste is collected for disposal. Each pulse is a negotiation between the body's needs and the heart's ability to meet them. Now, think about what happens when you exercise. Your muscles demand more oxygen, and within seconds your heart responds by beating faster and stronger, pumping 5, 6, even 7 liters of blood per minute compared to the resting average of 5. If you really push yourself running, lifting, cycling, that number can triple. Your heart becomes a performance engine, temporarily operating at a level of intensity that would overwhelm most machines. And yet, it thrives on this stress. Exercise doesn't weaken it, it trains it, just like lifting weights trains muscles. But here's the paradox. While the heart thrives on activity, it also depends on stillness. Too little movement, and it grows weak. Too much constant strain, and it falters. This is why balance matters. The heart was never meant to be idle, nor was it meant to run at full throttle forever. Its health lies in rhythm, in cycles of demand and rest, much like tides rising and falling. What makes this even more fascinating is how your heart can anticipate needs before they fully arise. Athletes often describe the feeling of their heart preparing before a race. This isn't just in their heads. The brain, sensing the excitement, signals the heart to increase output even before the first step is taken. It's a preview of action, like an orchestra tuning up before the performance begins. The heart is never behind the curve, it is always slightly ahead, ready to match what comes next. This responsiveness is also what allows you to survive sudden emergencies. Imagine a car swerving toward you or hearing a loud, unexpected crash. In the blink of an eye, your adrenal glands flood your system with adrenaline. Your heart rate spikes, your vessels constrict, and your blood pressure rises, priming your body for fight or flight. It is an ancient survival tool, one that has carried humans through countless dangers. Without this rapid-fire response, our ancestors might never have survived predators, disasters, or battlefields. And yet, this same system, when constantly triggered by modern stress deadlines, traffic, constant notifications can wear the heart down. What was once a life-saving burst of adrenaline becomes a chronic drip, and the heart begins to show the strain. High blood pressure, thickened walls, irregular rhythms. These are the scars of a system built for short sprints, forced instead to run a never-ending marathon. So while the heart adapts beautifully, it also teaches us a lesson. Resilience is not about constant toughness, but about knowing when to surge and when to slow. Every beat you've ever had, from the quiet rhythm of sleep to the pounding rush of fear, is part of this balancing act. It is not just about survival, it's about harmony. The heart, at first glance, seems simple, a steady, rhythmic pump keeping blood moving. But beneath that simplicity lies a complexity that is astonishing in both design and function. Each heartbeat is the culmination of a carefully orchestrated series of events involving muscles, valves, nerves, and vessels working in perfect synchrony. It is a performance that began before you were born and will continue, largely unnoticed, for as long as you live. To truly appreciate this, imagine your heart not as a single entity but as a community of specialists. The atria, smaller and thinner walled, are the receptionists, collecting blood from the veins and gently nudging it into the ventricles. The ventricles, larger and more muscular, are the powerhouse engines, contracting with enough force to propel blood across your entire body. The valves act as gatekeepers, ensuring that the flow goes only one way. Meanwhile, the pacemaker cells act as the conductors, sending electrical signals that dictate the precise timing of every contraction. If any one of these roles falters, the rhythm falters. And yet, for most of your life, this system works flawlessly, millions of times over, without you ever noticing. Consider the scale of this endeavor. The heart pumps roughly 5 liters of blood per minute at rest, and much more during exertion. That's thousands of liters each day, enough to fill multiple bathtubs in mere minutes. Yet, unlike a mechanical pump, it requires no oil changes, no replacement parts, no scheduled maintenance. The cells themselves are remarkably resilient, packed with mitochondria to constantly produce energy, while a vast network of coronary arteries delivers oxygen and nutrients to keep them functioning. Every second, a tiny army of red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and plasma travels through this system, delivering fuel, fighting infections, and maintaining balance. It is a living, breathing marvel. And then there is timing. The electrical conduction system is so finely tuned that your heart can maintain a rhythm even if the connection to the brain is lost. The sinoatrial node, located in the right atrium, generates the impulse that triggers each beat. This impulse travels to the atrioventricular node, where it is momentarily delayed, ensuring the atria have time to empty fully before the ventricles contract. From there, the impulse races down the bundle of His and the Purkinje fibers, reaching every muscle cell in the ventricles. The result is a beat that feels effortless, but is actually the product of billions of synchronized cellular events. This intricate design wasn't discovered overnight. For centuries, the heart was shrouded in mystery. Ancient Egyptians believed it was the seat of thought and emotion, weighing the heart against the feather of truth in the afterlife. Aristotle considered it the center of sensation and motion, with the brain as a mere cooling device. It wasn't until William Harvey's work in the 17th century that the circulatory system was understood in detail. Harvey demonstrated that blood circulates in a closed loop, propelled by the heart, overturning centuries of speculation and superstition. His discoveries laid the groundwork for modern cardiology, showing us that the heart was both an engine and a marvel of biological engineering. Yet, even with all our modern knowledge, the heart retains an element of unpredictability. Arrhythmias, or irregular heart rhythms, can appear without warning. Some are harmless, brief palpitations that cause a flutter or skipped beat. Others, like ventricular fibrillation, can be deadly within minutes. This unpredictability reminds us that the heart, for all its endurance, is still a living tissue, sensitive to chemical, electrical, and emotional changes. Sudden cardiac arrest, whether in a young athlete or an older adult, underscores how finely balanced this system is and how essential every cell and impulse is to life. The interplay between the heart and mind is another layer of fascination. Emotions trigger physiological responses that alter heart function. A burst of fear sends adrenaline surging through the bloodstream, increasing heart rate and contractility. Happiness and excitement have similar but gentler effects, while chronic stress can impose a constant burden on the heart, leading to elevated blood pressure and gradual wear over time. The phrase heartache is more literal than we often realize. The organ physically responds to our experiences, reacting to grief, joy, anticipation, and fear. Your heart also communicates in subtle ways with other systems. Breathing, for instance, affects its rhythm. This phenomenon, called respiratory sinus arrhythmia, causes the heart rate to increase slightly on inhalation and decrease on exhalation. It's a silent conversation between lungs and heart, one that has been harnessed in meditation and relaxation practices to enhance cardiovascular health. Even small behavioral changes, like slow, deep breathing, can have a measurable impact on heart function, demonstrating the organ's responsiveness to both internal and external cues. Consider also how the heart adapts to physical stress. When you exercise, your muscles demand more oxygen. Your heart responds almost instantly, increasing both rate and stroke volume, propelling more blood to meet the body's needs. Highly trained athletes can achieve cardiac outputs that seem almost superhuman, while the resting heart rate of a well-conditioned person can drop to 30 beats per minute, reflecting the efficiency of the cardiac system. This adaptability is a form of resilience, allowing the heart to adjust to extreme demands without damage, at least in healthy conditions. Yet the heart is vulnerable, and its failures reveal the fragility hidden beneath its power. Coronary artery disease, the gradual blockage of blood vessels supplying the heart muscle, can lead to heart attacks. High blood pressure forces the heart to work harder, potentially leading to thickened walls and heart failure. Lifestyle factors, diet, exercise, sleep, stress management, play enormous roles in maintaining the delicate balance that keeps the heart beating steadily. Each decision we make, each day, subtly influences the rhythm of this tireless organ. Technology has both revealed and aided the heart's function. The development of electrocardiography in the early 19th and 20th centuries allowed doctors to visualize electrical activity and diagnose arrhythmias. Defibrillators can restore normal rhythm in life-threatening situations. Pacemakers can assume the role of the heart's natural pacemaker when it fails. Even artificial hearts, though still rare, demonstrate the lengths humans have gone to replicate and support this organ's function. Yet despite all these innovations, nothing fully replicates the elegance, adaptability, and endurance of a living heart. And through it all, the heart remains a symbol, woven deeply into our language and imagination. Poets speak of it as the seat of love. Scientists study it as a marvel of bioengineering. Ordinary people barely notice it as they go about their day, yet they depend on it every second. It is simultaneously ordinary and extraordinary, mechanical and emotional, visible only when it falters, yet essential every moment of life. So, as you consider the countless beats your heart has already completed and the billions still ahead, ask yourself this: what other rhythms in life are operating quietly, unseen, sustaining everything around you, just as your heart sustains you? As you settle deeper into this story, think about the quiet moments when your heart is working hardest without your awareness. When you were a baby, it beat as you floated in the womb, carrying oxygen through the umbilical cord, keeping you alive before you had ever drawn a single breath. From the very first moments of life, the heart establishes its rhythm, a constant companion that predates thought, memory, and experience. It is the first sound you ever heard in life, and in many ways, it will be the last. Even in adulthood, the heart functions as a ceaseless engine, never taking a day off. Consider the micro adjustments it makes each second. Your blood pressure changes depending on posture, activity, and emotional state. Tiny sensors within the heart and blood vessels, called baroreceptors, monitor these pressures constantly, sending signals to the brainstem to adjust rate and force. It is a feedback loop so precise that even minor deviations are immediately corrected. One moment you are standing still, your heart rate steady. The next, you sprint across a street, and the heart instantly accelerates to meet the demand. All of this happens without conscious thought, without effort, without fanfare. The resilience of the heart is matched by its fragility. Coronary arteries, the lifelines that deliver oxygen-rich blood to the cardiac muscle itself, are small yet critical. If they become blocked, parts of the heart can begin to die within minutes. The pain of a heart attack is often sudden and intense, yet in some cases, damage occurs quietly over time, leaving survivors unaware until the first major episode. Modern medicine has developed interventions, stents, bypass surgery, clot-dissolving medications. But the underlying message remains: the heart is vulnerable, and it depends on a balance of biology, lifestyle, and sometimes luck. Yet the heart is also remarkably adaptive. Take, for example, the athletes who push their bodies to extremes. Endurance runners, cyclists, and swimmers often develop enlarged hearts, with thicker walls and expanded chambers. This physiological adaptation allows them to pump more blood with each beat, increasing efficiency. Even in situations of high altitude, where oxygen is scarce, the heart adjusts, strengthening its capacity to deliver life-sustaining blood. Evolution has designed the heart not only to endure but to thrive under a wide range of conditions. Its adaptability extends to its electrical system as well. Arrhythmias, while potentially dangerous, often reveal the heart's capacity to manage irregularities. Some palpitations are harmless, tiny blips that pass unnoticed by most people. Others may require intervention, but the heart often recovers, continuing to beat faithfully despite imperfections. It is a system built for resilience, one that accommodates both variability and consistency, chaos and order. History, too, bears witness to the heart's endurance. Soldiers in long campaigns, explorers navigating treacherous terrain, and laborers working grueling hours, all relied on their hearts to sustain them, often without adequate food, water, or rest. Accounts from history describe moments when a person's sheer will to survive coincided with the heart's quiet diligence. It beat on, even when the body was weak, reminding us that life is not simply about strength or intelligence, but about the underlying systems that quietly sustain us. Even emotion is written into the heart's rhythm. Stress, joy, fear, excitement, all produce measurable changes. The ancient metaphor of the heart fluttering or breaking is literal in a way science has confirmed. Extreme grief can trigger stress, cardiomyopathy, a temporary but serious weakening of the heart muscle. Conversely, positive emotions can improve heart rate variability, a marker of cardiovascular health. The heart listens and responds, interpreting the world in both mechanical and metaphorical ways. Medicine has increasingly explored this connection. Heart rate variability, once a curiosity, is now recognized as a critical metric for stress and well-being. A flexible, responsive heart is a healthy heart, while a rigid, unyielding pattern may indicate chronic stress or illness. Breathing exercises, meditation, and gentle physical activity can improve this variability, demonstrating that your choices directly influence the very rhythm sustaining life. Your heart also leaves traces beyond mere beats. Pulse waves, tiny vibrations transmitted through arteries, reveal clues about blood pressure, arterial stiffness, and overall health. Modern imaging technologies, from echocardiography to MRI, allow us to witness the heart's motion in extraordinary detail. Each contraction, each opening and closing of a valve, Each electrical signal can be visualized, measured, and studied. Yet, despite all these insights, there remains a mystery. The heart is a simple muscle in form, but an infinitely complex organ in function, both predictable and unpredictable at once. Consider the story of defibrillation. In cases of life-threatening arrhythmias, an electric shock can reset the heart's rhythm. It is a stark reminder that the heartbeat, so constant and reliable, is also finely tuned and delicate. Even a small disruption can have enormous consequences, yet with proper intervention, the heart can resume its faithful work, as if nothing had happened. It is a testament to both fragility and resilience, a paradox woven into every beat. And then there is the cultural and symbolic weight of the heart. Across civilizations, the heart has represented love, courage, and vitality. Ancient Egyptians saw it as the seat of the soul. Greeks debated its role in emotion and intellect, and poets have long used it as a metaphor for human experience. Yet beyond symbolism, the heart is purely functional, pumping blood, sustaining life, coordinating a complex system with minimal error over decades. That duality, symbolic and mechanical, is part of what makes the heart endlessly fascinating. Even in modern science, the heart continues to surprise. Research on stem cells, gene therapy, and tissue engineering suggests that one day, damaged hearts might be regenerated. Artificial hearts, though still rare, demonstrate our capacity to imitate what nature has perfected over millions of years. Yet even with all this innovation, nothing replicates the adaptability, efficiency, and resilience of the natural heart. As you rest and reflect, consider this. Every beat you've ever had is unique yet identical in its purpose. Every contraction is an invisible testament to endurance, adaptability, and precision. It connects you to history, to your ancestors, to the millions of people who have lived with the same fundamental rhythm. And yet, it is intensely personal, the constant companion of your own life story. So, I ask you, as this section closes, if your heart can maintain life without pause for decades, responding to challenges, emotions, and environmental changes, what else in life might operate with quiet, unobserved dedication, sustaining the world around you without notice? Think for a moment about the quiet complexity of the heart's structure. While most of us imagine it as a simple pump, it is far more sophisticated. The four chambers, the two atria and two ventricles, operate not only as separate compartments, but in coordination, responding to changes in pressure, oxygen demand, and nervous system input. The atria collect blood gently, ensuring that the ventricles are optimally filled before each contraction. The ventricles, particularly the left ventricle, generate enormous pressure, strong enough to push blood through arteries that reach every corner of your body. The timing, pressure, and strength of each contraction are finely tuned, ensuring efficiency and minimizing waste. The valves, thin flaps of tissue, deserve special attention. Though small and seemingly fragile, they function as one-way doors, preventing blood from flowing backward. Each valve opens and closes precisely with every beat, creating the familiar lub-dub sound you can hear with a stethoscope. The opening and closing are not mechanical noises, they are the sound of life itself, a rhythm repeated billions of times over a lifetime. If even one valve fails, the system must compensate. Sometimes, the heart enlarges or beats faster to maintain circulation, demonstrating both resilience and the consequences of imperfection. Blood, the substance the heart moves, is equally extraordinary. Far from being a simple red liquid, it is a complex mixture of cells, proteins, nutrients, hormones, and waste products. Red blood cells carry oxygen with remarkable efficiency. White blood cells patrol for infection. Platelets initiate clotting when injury occurs, and plasma serves as the transportation medium. Every beat propels this mixture, delivering life-sustaining oxygen and nutrients while removing carbon dioxide and metabolic waste. The heart is the engine, and blood is the delivery system, a dynamic duo that sustains your life without pause. The heart's electrical system, often overlooked, is another marvel. The sinoatrial node, the natural pacemaker, initiates each beat. Electrical impulses travel rapidly through the atria, causing them to contract, and then reach the atrioventricular node, which introduces a brief delay to allow ventricular filling. From there, the signal spreads through the bundle of His and Purkinje fibers, activating every muscle cell in the ventricles. The process occurs in less than a second, yet it must be perfect. Small errors can lead to arrhythmias, palpitations, or even cardiac arrest. The precision is staggering. Billions of cells working together, guided by invisible electrical currents, producing the rhythm that sustains life. Historically, understanding this rhythm was a long journey. In ancient civilizations, the heart was often seen as the seat of emotion, courage, or soul. Egyptians placed it at the center of the afterlife, while Greeks debated its role in thought and feeling. It wasn't until the 17th century that William Harvey described the circulatory system, proving that blood circulated in a closed loop powered by the heart. Harvey's discovery overturned centuries of misconceptions and laid the foundation for modern cardiology. Even now, with MRI, ultrasound, and advanced electrophysiology, scientists continue to uncover new insights into cardiac function. The heart's adaptability is one of its most remarkable traits. Exercise, stress, altitude, and temperature all demand rapid adjustments. During a sprint, for example, the heart rate can more than double, pumping additional blood to supply oxygen to active muscles. In highly trained athletes, the heart enlarges slightly, allowing each beat to move more blood with less effort. Conversely, during rest or sleep, the heart slows, conserving energy and maintaining balance. It is a system optimized for variation, capable of responding to extremes yet maintaining equilibrium. Sleep itself highlights the heart's dynamic nature. As you drift into deeper stages, the parasympathetic nervous system slows the heart, allowing recovery. During REM sleep, when dreams surge and the body is paralyzed, the heart may momentarily accelerate, reflecting mental and emotional activity even while the body rests. This nightly rhythm is essential for long-term cardiovascular health. Chronic sleep deprivation disrupts it, increasing the risk of hypertension, arrhythmias, and heart disease. The heart, in essence, needs rest as much as it thrives on activity. Emotions also leave an imprint on the heart. Fear triggers adrenaline, increasing heart rate and contractility. Joy, laughter, or anticipation can produce gentle accelerations. Extreme grief or shock may even lead to stress cardiomyopathy, a temporary weakening of the heart muscle. These responses are not merely poetic, they are physiological. The heart is sensitive to mental and emotional states, demonstrating that life's rhythms are intertwined with both body and mind. Modern medicine has harnessed this knowledge. Electrocardiograms, pacemakers, defibrillators, and heart rate variability monitors allow us to observe and influence the heart's function. They provide a window into what was once invisible, allowing life-saving interventions when natural rhythms falter. Yet, even with all this technology, nothing replaces the elegance, adaptability, and endurance of a natural heart. It is not just a mechanical pump, it is a living system, resilient yet vulnerable, constant yet responsive. Consider the stories of people surviving extreme conditions. Soldiers marching for days with minimal food, explorers navigating freezing mountains, or survivors of shipwrecks all relied on the same organ beating steadily, unseen but essential. Their hearts kept them alive long before they were aware of the danger, silently supporting life even in dire circumstances. It is a reminder that the heart operates without notice, yet its work is crucial, carrying individuals through moments that define survival. Even in ordinary life, the heart communicates. The pulse at your wrist or neck is more than a simple count of beats per minute. It is a window into your physical state. Rapid increases may reflect exercise, stress, or excitement. Slow rates may indicate rest, fitness, or sometimes medical concern. The rhythm itself, the pattern of beats and pauses, carries information that physicians have studied for centuries. Your heart is both messenger and instrument, revealing the story of your health with every beat. And yet, for all this sophistication, the heart remains largely invisible in daily life. You rarely notice its presence unless something goes wrong. It beats tirelessly, coordinating the delivery of blood, oxygen, and nutrients, responding to internal and external signals, sustaining life moment by moment. Its constancy is both comforting and astonishing, a machine of flesh operating with such precision that it goes unnoticed, yet so critical that life would end in minutes without it. Even beyond survival, the heart connects us to culture, history, and imagination. Across civilizations, it has symbolized love, courage, vitality, and life itself. Poetry, music, and art often focus on the heart as the seat of emotion. And yet, beneath symbolism lies function, pumping blood, sustaining life, performing an unbroken rhythm for decades. The duality is extraordinary, mechanical and emotional, literal and metaphorical, ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. So as you reflect on the heart's function, consider this: billions of beats, trillions of microscopic actions, all performed without conscious thought, all sustaining life. What lessons might we draw from such relentless, unseen diligence? What other systems, within and beyond our bodies, operate quietly yet crucially, maintaining the rhythms of life without fanfare or recognition? As you listen quietly, consider the journey of a single heartbeat. One beat seems simple, a contraction, a pause, a pump of blood. Yet in reality, it is the result of countless microscopic processes happening simultaneously, each as essential as the last. From the firing of pacemaker cells in the sinoatrial node to the contraction of millions of muscle fibers in the ventricles, every beat is the sum of coordinated biological choreography. It is not merely pumping blood, it is sustaining life with a precision that human engineering has yet to fully replicate. Blood travels at different speeds through various parts of your circulatory system. Through the aorta, the largest artery, it surges rapidly, propelled by the left ventricle. By the time it reaches capillaries, tiny vessels thinner than a human hair flow slows to allow nutrients and oxygen to pass into cells. Waste products, such as carbon dioxide, are absorbed back into the bloodstream for removal. This dynamic flow requires both force and flexibility. Arteries must withstand immense pressure yet remain elastic enough to buffer each surge. Veins must guide blood back to the heart efficiently, often against gravity, aided by one-way valves. The system is a marvel of engineering, constantly adjusting to maintain balance. Every heartbeat also triggers subtle electrical and chemical reactions. Calcium ions flood muscle cells, prompting contraction. Sodium and potassium ions regulate the electrical impulses that coordinate each beat. The exchange of these elements occurs billions of times every day, powering a rhythm that rarely stops. Without these precise processes, the heartbeat would falter, and with it, life itself. Even small disruptions can cascade into serious conditions, illustrating how finely tuned this system is. Historically, our understanding of these processes has evolved dramatically. In the early 19th century, scientists like Luigi Galvani observed that electricity could stimulate muscle movement, laying the foundation for cardiac electrophysiology. Later, in the early 1900s, Willem Einthoven developed the first electrocardiograph, allowing doctors to visualize the heart's electrical activity. Patients had to place limbs in saltwater baths, and the machines were massive, cumbersome devices. Despite their impracticality, these early inventions revealed secrets of the heartbeat that had been invisible for centuries. Today, compact monitors and wearable devices can track heart rhythms continuously, yet the heart itself remains more intricate than any machine we have devised. Consider the heart's ability to respond to emergencies. Imagine suddenly seeing a car veer toward you. Instantly, adrenaline floods your bloodstream. Your heart rate accelerates, blood pressure rises, and muscles receive more oxygenated blood. This response, known as the fight or flight reaction, has saved countless lives over millennia. It is an ancient mechanism, honed by evolution, allowing humans to survive immediate threats. Yet in modern life, chronic stress can trigger the same pathways repeatedly, straining the heart and blood vessels, demonstrating the delicate balance between survival mechanisms and long-term health. Sleep illustrates another dimension of the heart's adaptability. In deep sleep, the parasympathetic nervous system dominates, slowing heart rate and lowering blood pressure. The heart rests and repairs itself. In REM sleep, when the brain is highly active, the heart may accelerate again, reflecting the emotional and cognitive processes of dreaming. These nightly fluctuations are not random, they are essential for cardiovascular health. Disruption of these rhythms, through insomnia or irregular sleep patterns, increases the risk of heart disease, demonstrating the importance of both rest and activity in maintaining the heart's function. Even everyday behaviors subtly influence the heartbeat. Breathing, for instance, interacts with heart rhythm in a phenomenon called respiratory sinus arrhythmia. When you inhale, your heart rate increases slightly. When you exhale, it slows. This interaction is a natural way the body optimizes oxygen delivery and supports cardiovascular flexibility. Practices like meditation, slow breathing, and yoga leverage this relationship, promoting a healthier heart by encouraging patterns that enhance variability and adaptability. Exercise further highlights the heart's remarkable resilience. During vigorous activity, the heart may triple its output, supplying oxygen-rich blood to muscles and vital organs. Highly trained athletes can develop enlarged hearts with stronger walls and greater capacity, demonstrating how the organ adapts to extreme demands. At rest, the same hearts beat far slower than average, showing that efficiency and endurance go hand in hand. The heart thrives on challenge, but also requires periods of recovery, illustrating that balance is central to its health. Disease provides another lens through which to appreciate the heart's intricacy. Coronary artery disease, hypertension, and arrhythmias show how fragile the system can be when stressors overwhelm its capacity. Interventions like stents, pacemakers, and defibrillators reveal both the heart's vulnerability and our ingenuity in preserving it. Yet no device fully replicates the subtle interplay of muscle, valves, nerves, and electrical impulses. The natural heart, with all its adaptability and endurance, remains the gold standard, a living system far more complex than any artificial replacement. Emotion, too, leaves a physical imprint. The heart responds not only to physical demands but also to mental and emotional states. Love can quicken it, grief can weaken it, excitement can send it racing. Extreme stress may trigger conditions like stress cardiomyopathy, illustrating that even the heart, so precise in its mechanical role, is influenced by human experience. The intertwining of physiology and psychology demonstrates that the heart is both a biological organ and a mirror of life's emotional landscape. Across cultures and time, humans have recognized the significance of the heart. Ancient Egyptians weighed it in the afterlife. Greeks debated its role in intellect and emotion. Poets have long used it as a symbol of love and courage. Yet beneath symbolism lies the physical reality. The heart is the engine sustaining life. This duality, symbolic and practical, emotional and mechanical, is part of its enduring fascination. Every beat you experience is a product of billions of cells, communicating in perfect harmony, moving blood, responding to chemical signals, adjusting to stress, and repairing itself when needed. It is a rhythm that connects you not only to your own body but to generations before you, to the countless people who lived, thrived, and survived with the same relentless pulse. Each beat is ordinary, yet extraordinary in its implications. So as you reflect quietly, consider this. Billions of beats have carried you from your earliest days to this moment, and billions more will continue silently sustaining life. What other systems in your body or in the world operate tirelessly, invisibly, yet without them, everything would falter? The heartbeat is a reminder that the most essential work often goes unnoticed, yet its effects ripple across every moment of life. As you rest and listen, imagine the journey of blood through your body with every beat of the heart. Each contraction is not merely a mechanical push, it is a complex, fluid choreography designed to sustain life. Blood exits the left ventricle with remarkable force, entering the aorta and branching into arteries that reach every organ, every tissue, every cell. This journey, repeated billions of times in a lifetime, carries not just oxygen and nutrients, but also hormones, immune cells, and waste products. It is a system of transportation and communication, an internal highway invisible to the eye but vital to every living moment. The right side of the heart performs an equally critical role. It receives deoxygenated blood from the body and pumps it to the lungs, where carbon dioxide is exchanged for fresh oxygen. This process is continuous and astonishingly efficient. Even a momentary failure would disrupt the delicate balance of the entire circulatory system. Think about the tiny capillaries in the lungs, thinner than a strand of hair, where oxygen diffuses into the blood while carbon dioxide diffuses out. This exchange happens automatically, millions of times every day, silently sustaining life without your awareness. At the cellular level, the heart is a miracle of energy management. Each cardiac muscle cell contains thousands of mitochondria, the tiny power plants that convert nutrients into usable energy. During each beat, calcium ions flow into muscle cells, triggering contraction, then are pumped back out to prepare for the next cycle. Sodium and potassium ions maintain electrical gradients, allowing impulses to travel through the conduction system. The precision of these processes is astonishing. Billions of cells coordinating perfectly, billions of chemical reactions happening each second, all to maintain a single, unified rhythm. The electrical conduction system itself is a marvel of timing. The sinoatrial node generates the impulse that begins each heartbeat, setting the pace for the rest of the heart. This signal spreads across the atria, prompting contraction, and reaches the atrioventricular node, where it is delayed just enough to allow the ventricles to fill completely. From there, the signal travels through the bundle of His and Purkinje fibers, activating the ventricles in perfect sequence. If even a fraction of a second is off, the rhythm falters, demonstrating the extraordinary precision inherent in every beat. Sleep demonstrates the heart's responsiveness in subtle and fascinating ways. During non-REM sleep, the parasympathetic nervous system dominates, slowing the heart and lowering blood pressure, giving the cardiovascular system a restorative pause. In REM sleep, when dreams surge and the body is paralyzed, the heart may accelerate, mirroring the activity of the mind. The cycle of slowing and quickening is essential, highlighting the balance the heart maintains between rest and readiness. Without these cycles, cardiovascular health declines, showing just how critical sleep is to this unseen rhythm. Emotion leaves an undeniable mark on the heart. Fear, excitement, grief, joy, all produce physiological changes. Stress floods the bloodstream with adrenaline and cortisol, increasing heart rate and contractility, preparing the body for rapid action. Love or anticipation can trigger milder but still measurable increases. Extreme emotional events can even cause temporary heart muscle weakening, a condition known as stress cardiomyopathy. The poetic language of heartache or heart flutter turns out to be more literal than metaphorical. The heart truly responds to the currents of human experience. The interplay between the heart and mind has practical implications. Heart rate variability, the subtle changes in the interval between beats, is a key marker of cardiovascular health. A flexible, variable rhythm indicates resilience, while a rigid pattern may signal stress or illness. Practices such as deep breathing, meditation, or gentle exercise can improve variability, demonstrating that conscious actions influence the heart's invisible work. Even minor lifestyle changes can ripple through the system, affecting a rhythm that otherwise goes unnoticed. Exercise provides another lens on the heart's adaptability. When you exert yourself, your muscles demand more oxygen, and the heart responds almost instantly, increasing both rate and stroke volume. Highly trained athletes develop hearts capable of moving more blood per beat, reducing resting heart rate while increasing output during activity. The same organ adapts to extremes of altitude, temperature, and physical stress, showing remarkable flexibility. Yet the heart also depends on rest. Recovery periods are essential, reinforcing the theme of balance that dominates its function. The history of human understanding of the heart is a journey in itself. Ancient civilizations speculated about its role in thought, emotion, and spirit. Egyptians believed it was weighed against the feather of truth in the afterlife. Aristotle theorized it as the center of sensation and motion. It was not until William Harvey's work in the 17th century that the circulatory system was scientifically described. Harvey demonstrated that blood circulates continuously, propelled by the heart, overturning centuries of misconceptions. His discoveries laid the foundation for modern cardiology, connecting centuries of observation with the precise mechanics we understand today. Modern medicine has revealed the heart's intricacies in astonishing detail. Electrocardiograms measure electrical activity, echocardiograms visualize motion, and MRIs map structural details with incredible resolution. Pacemakers and defibrillators provide life-saving interventions when the natural rhythm falters. Even artificial hearts, though rare, show how humans strive to replicate what nature has perfected over millions of years. Despite all this technology, the natural heart remains unparalleled, combining efficiency, adaptability, and endurance in a way no machine can match. Think too about the heart's role in survival. In extreme conditions, it performs under pressure. Soldiers marching long distances, explorers enduring freezing temperatures, and survivors of disasters all relied on the same organ beating steadily, silently sustaining life. Its resilience in these conditions underscores the combination of strength and subtlety that defines the heart. Even when the body falters, the heart often carries on, bridging moments between peril and survival. The heart's communication extends beyond the mechanical. Pulse waves traveling through arteries reveal insights about blood pressure, elasticity, and overall cardiovascular health. Your wrist or neck pulse is a tangible manifestation of an invisible system, a reminder that life's most critical processes often operate quietly in the background. Physicians have long recognized the significance of these signals, using them to detect disease, monitor health, and guide interventions. Yet for most people, this system operates unnoticed, sustaining life without recognition. Culture and symbolism amplify the heart's significance. Across civilizations, it represents courage, love, vitality, and emotion. Literature, music, and art have celebrated the heart for millennia, yet its most fundamental role is purely functional, moving blood, delivering oxygen and nutrients, sustaining life. This duality, symbolic and mechanical, is what makes the heart endlessly fascinating. It is ordinary in appearance, but extraordinary in operation, poetic in metaphor, but literal in survival. Finally, consider the ongoing story of your own heart. Every beat, from the first in the womb to this very moment, is a continuation of life's rhythm. It connects you to generations past, to ancestors whose hearts sustained them through challenges we can only imagine. It is personal and universal at once, a reminder that the most vital work is often unseen. Your heartbeat is a silent companion, marking time, supporting life, and connecting the physical, emotional, and historical threads of existence. So as you lie here, reflecting on the heart's tireless work, consider this. Billions of beats have carried you to this moment, and billions more will continue to do so. What other systems in your body or in the world around you operate tirelessly and invisibly, sustaining life without notice? How often do we pause to honor the quiet work that makes everything else possible? As you continue to relax and listen, think about the tiny but powerful cells that make your heartbeat possible. Cardiac muscle cells, or cardiomyocytes, are unlike most other cells in your body. They contract in unison, communicating through intercalated discs, specialized connections that allow electrical impulses to flow rapidly from one cell to the next. This connectivity ensures that millions of cells act as a single unit, producing a coordinated contraction that moves blood efficiently through your body. The elegance of this system is breathtaking. Each cell relies on its neighbors, and yet each is capable of responding to its own electrical signals, providing redundancy that ensures resilience. At the microscopic level, the heart is a flurry of chemical activity. Calcium ions initiate contraction, sodium and potassium ions propagate electrical signals, and mitochondria produce the energy required for each beat. This biochemical symphony occurs billions of times over a lifetime, yet it is invisible, silent, and continuous. Imagine trillions of chemical exchanges occurring simultaneously every day, all orchestrated, without pause, your heart doing its work while you read, sleep, think, or dream. The scale of this activity is staggering, far beyond any human-engineered system. Blood itself is remarkable in its composition and function. Red blood cells carry oxygen, white blood cells protect against infection, platelets initiate clotting when needed, and plasma serves as the medium for transporting nutrients, hormones, and waste. Each beat of your heart sends this living fluid on a journey across the entire body, reaching distant extremities and microscopic capillaries. In those tiny vessels, thinner than a strand of hair, oxygen diffuses into cells while waste products diffuse out. This process occurs billions of times daily, demonstrating how life depends on precise and constant movement. Consider the heart's electrical system in more detail. The sinoatrial node, often called the natural pacemaker, generates impulses without any input from the brain. These signals travel across the atria, prompting contraction, before reaching the atrioventricular node, which introduces a critical delay. This delay ensures that the ventricles fill completely before contracting. From there, the impulse spreads through the bundle of His and Purkinje fibers, coordinating ventricular contraction with precision down to milliseconds. The heart's timing is so exact that even minor deviations can lead to arrhythmias, demonstrating the fragility and sophistication of this living machine. The history of our understanding of the heart is long and fascinating. In ancient times, civilizations often attributed emotional and spiritual significance to the heart. Egyptians believed it was weighed against a feather in the afterlife, while Aristotle considered it the center of sensation and motion. It was not until the 17th century that William Harvey demonstrated the circulatory system, revealing that blood circulates continuously through the body, propelled by the heart. This discovery overturned centuries of belief and laid the foundation for modern cardiology, transforming the heart from a symbol to a scientifically understood organ. Your heart's adaptability is astounding. During exercise, the demand for oxygen increases dramatically, and the heart responds almost instantly, increasing both rate and stroke volume. Athletes can develop enlarged hearts, stronger walls, and more efficient pumping capacity. At rest, their hearts beat more slowly, conserving energy, yet can rapidly scale output when needed. The heart thrives on challenge, but requires rest. Balance, it seems, is key. Too much strain can lead to long-term damage, while too little can cause weakness. The heart's capacity to respond to both extremes is a testament to its design. Sleep reveals yet another dimension of the heart's work. During non-REM sleep, the parasympathetic nervous system slows heart rate and lowers blood pressure, allowing recovery. During REM sleep, when dreams are vivid and the brain is active, The heart may accelerate, mirroring mental activity. These nightly fluctuations are not arbitrary, they are essential for health. Chronic sleep deprivation disrupts this rhythm, increasing the risk of high blood pressure, arrhythmias, and heart disease. The heart needs both rest and activity, demonstrating that even a tireless organ benefits from cycles of repair. Emotional states also influence the heartbeat. Stress, fear, excitement, joy, and grief all produce physiological effects. Adrenaline can spike heart rate and force, preparing the body for rapid action. Positive emotions can improve heart rate variability, a key indicator of resilience and cardiovascular health. Extreme emotional events may even trigger stress cardiomyopathy, a temporary weakening of the heart muscle. The heart listens, responding not just to mechanical needs but to the subtler signals of mind and emotion. It is, in every sense, both a biological organ and a mirror of your inner life. Medical science has revealed more about the heart than any previous generation could imagine. Electrocardiograms visualize electrical activity, echocardiograms show motion, and MRIs allow us to see structure in fine detail. Pacemakers, defibrillators, and artificial hearts illustrate our efforts to replicate and assist what nature created over millions of years. Yet the natural heart remains unrivaled in its elegance and resilience, an organ that combines adaptability, strength, and endurance in a way no machine can fully duplicate. History is full of stories that highlight the heart's resilience. Soldiers marching long distances, explorers facing extreme cold, or survivors of shipwrecks relied on their hearts to sustain life even in dire circumstances. The organ kept beating, quietly performing its essential work without pause, bridging moments between peril and survival. This hidden strength is mirrored in ordinary life. Every day, the heart maintains life in ways we barely notice. Yet without it, nothing else would function. Even your pulse is a form of communication. Palpable at the wrist or neck, it reflects not just heart rate but blood pressure, vessel elasticity, and overall health. Physicians have used these subtle signals for centuries to detect disease, monitor health, and guide treatment. Every beat carries information, a message encoded in rhythm, pressure, and flow. And yet for most people, these rhythms go unnoticed, silently sustaining life while we focus on the world around us. Cultural symbolism reinforces the heart's significance. Across civilizations, it represents courage, love, vitality, and emotion. Poets, musicians, and artists have long celebrated the heart as the seat of life and feeling. Yet its true role is functional, pumping blood, maintaining circulation, sustaining life. This dual nature, mechanical and symbolic, is part of what makes the heart endlessly fascinating. It is ordinary in appearance, extraordinary in operation, literal in function, poetic in its influence on our understanding of life. Finally, reflect on your own heartbeat. From the first beat in the womb to this very moment, your heart has maintained a rhythm that links you to generations past, to ancestors who relied on the same organ to survive. Every contraction, every electrical impulse, every flow of blood is part of a rhythm that sustains not only your life, but the life of countless cells, tissues, and organs. It is at once intensely personal and universal, a reminder that the most vital work often happens quietly, invisibly, yet reliably. As you consider the billions of beats your heart has carried you through, and the billions more still to come, ask yourself, what other systems in life operate with such quiet, relentless dedication, sustaining existence without recognition? What rhythms, both within and around you, go unnoticed, yet are essential to survival? The heart reminds us that often the most crucial work is invisible, steady, and enduring, quietly carrying life forward with every beat. As you listen, think of the heart not only as a mechanical organ but as a storyteller of life. Every beat carries a narrative of oxygen delivered to the smallest cells, of nutrients nourished across miles of arteries and veins, of emotional responses translated into electrical and chemical signals. It is the silent witness to your earliest breaths, your first steps, your first fears, your first joys. And it continues, quietly chronicling your journey, with no pause, no complaint, and no applause. From the very first beat in the womb, your heart began its relentless work. That initial rhythm, imperceptible to the world outside, marked the start of a lifelong dance between biology and time. Even before you drew your first breath, the heart circulated oxygen through the umbilical cord, sustaining life independently of the lungs. The earliest heartbeat is a proof of nature's design, small yet powerful, fragile yet astonishingly resilient. As you matured, this tiny organ scaled its efforts, adapting to each stage of development, from the high demands of childhood play to the subtle requirements of adult life. Its adaptability is remarkable. Consider physical exertion. When you climb a flight of stairs, run across a street, or lift a weight, the heart responds immediately. It senses the increased oxygen demand of muscles and the brain, accelerates its rhythm, and boosts the volume of blood pumped with each beat. In athletes, this adaptation can become structural. A slightly enlarged heart, stronger walls, greater efficiency. At rest, these hearts may beat more slowly, conserving energy while maintaining readiness for sudden activity. This balance between effort and recovery is a constant theme, illustrating the intelligence embedded in biological design. Yet even in rest, the heart is active in complex ways. During sleep, it oscillates between states of calm and responsiveness. Non-REM sleep brings slower, deeper rhythms, allowing repair and regeneration. REM sleep introduces variability, with surges in heart rate reflecting the emotional and cognitive activity of dreams. This nightly cycle is essential, highlighting that even an organ famed for endurance thrives on periods of rest. Disruption, through insomnia or irregular sleep, places strain on the system, reinforcing the idea that sustainability requires both activity and pause. The electrical system of the heart is no less fascinating. The sinoatrial node generates impulses that ripple across the atria, prompting contraction. Signals reach the atrioventricular node, introducing a critical delay that ensures the ventricles fill completely before contracting. From there, electrical waves propagate through specialized fibers, coordinating the ventricle's precise contraction. Timing is essential. Millisecond differences can alter efficiency or create dangerous arrhythmias. The heart's electrical rhythm is a complex language, one that communicates health, stress, and adaptation with every pulse. Emotion, too, writes its mark on this rhythm. Fear, stress, excitement, joy, grief, all influence the heartbeat. Adrenaline surges elevate rate and force, preparing the body for action. Positive emotions subtly improve heart rate variability, promoting resilience. Extreme emotional events can even trigger stress, cardiomyopathy, temporarily weakening the muscle. Poetic expressions like heartache or heart flutter are rooted in biological reality. Your heart is sensitive to the currents of human experience. Its responses connect the physical and emotional, demonstrating that life's rhythms are interwoven with thought, feeling, and circumstance. Blood, the medium of life, continues its intricate journey with every beat. Oxygen, nutrients, and hormones are delivered to tissues, while carbon dioxide and waste are carried away. Even at the capillary level, diffusion occurs efficiently, feeding each cell. This flow is orchestrated seamlessly, guided by the heart's force and the elasticity of arteries. Veins, aided by valves and skeletal muscle movement, return blood to the heart, often against gravity. It is a cycle of flow and return, of supply and demand, occurring billions of times in a lifetime with almost no conscious oversight. Historical context deepens our appreciation. For centuries, humans have speculated about the heart's role in life and emotion. Egyptians believed it weighed in judgment against the feather of truth. Aristotle theorized it as the center of sensation. For hundreds of years, the heart's mechanics were misunderstood. It was not until William Harvey, in the 17th century, described the circulatory system and demonstrated that blood circulated continuously, propelled by the heart, that we gained scientific clarity. Harvey's work was revolutionary, bridging observation, experimentation, and understanding, laying the foundation for modern cardiology. The heart's resilience is equally impressive. Extreme conditions, long marches, freezing temperatures, starvation, or illness rely on the heart's ability to adapt. Soldiers, explorers, and survivors all depended on this tireless organ to sustain life when every other system was stressed. Even when the body faltered, the heart carried on, performing its work without recognition. Its endurance is both a lesson and a marvel, highlighting the silent labor that underpins all life. Modern medicine provides insights that were unimaginable in earlier centuries. Electrocardiograms, echocardiograms, MRIs, pacemakers, and artificial hearts all reveal, support, or replicate functions once invisible. Yet despite all this technology, the natural heart remains unparalleled. Its combination of precision, adaptability, and endurance exceeds the capabilities of any machine humans have created. It continues to function seamlessly, even as the environment, emotions, and physical demands fluctuate. The cultural significance of the heart mirrors its biological importance. It symbolizes courage, love, vitality, and life itself. Poets, musicians, and artists have long celebrated its meaning beyond the physical. Yet beneath symbolism lies the tangible truth. The heart pumps blood, sustains cells, and enables survival. The duality is extraordinary. It is both ordinary and miraculous, mechanical and poetic, symbolic and literal. It reminds us that essential work often goes unnoticed, quietly sustaining the extraordinary complexity of life. Even your pulse, the simplest measure of life, holds complexity. Palpable at the wrist or neck, it communicates heart rate, pressure, and elasticity. It reflects health, stress, and adaptation. Physicians have long studied it, yet for most people, this rhythm is background music, unheard yet indispensable. The pulse is a window into the body's continuous effort, an ever-present reminder that life is supported by subtle, unseen forces. As the heartbeat continues without interruption, consider the billions of times it has already carried you through life. From infancy to this very moment, each contraction has delivered oxygen, nourished tissue, and maintained homeostasis. Each electrical signal has coordinated muscle fibers, ensuring that rhythm and force are aligned. Each surge of blood has connected every part of your body in an invisible network of communication and support. The heart is not merely an organ, it is a testament to the intricacy, intelligence, and resilience of life itself. And so, as this exploration comes to its conclusion, pause to reflect on the silent dedication of your heart. It beats tirelessly, responding to physical demands, emotional states, environmental conditions, and the passage of time. It has carried you through billions of moments without complaint, without recognition, yet with perfect reliability. It is a constant companion, both mechanical and emotional, ordinary in appearance, but extraordinary in function. So, as you rest tonight, consider this final question. If your heart can sustain life with such quiet diligence for decades, what other systems within your body, your mind, or even in the world around you operate tirelessly, invisibly, yet are no less essential? The heartbeat reminds us that the most vital work often goes unnoticed, that life depends on rhythm, resilience, and the quiet persistence of unseen forces. And perhaps, in honoring this silent rhythm, you may notice other hidden patterns of endurance and dedication around you, quietly sustaining everything you hold dear.